You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 130 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. Back with us, the brains of the operation, Jessica Szilagyi.
Didn't you say the adult? The adult in the room?
The adult in the room.
Which is funny because when you first joined us, I think Matt and I were the giggly ones, but now none of us can be trusted.
Yeah, we tried to record from Governor's Gun Club, and I certainly know there was a bunch of background noise that went with it. It wasn't it was a good effort, but neither Matt nor I are technical enough to figure out all the background noise and stuff like that.
Right?
Exactly. Plus, it's basically the whole show was what you would have heard if you sat at the bar with us, which is just a hour-long conversation of non sequiturs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure there was no outline or research or anything.
There was a basic outline, but yeah, we had to break halfway through it. So Matt could go run to the bathroom, and I could pull another story up to put it in there to get.
Nice. Yeah,
it was very fly by the seat of our pants.
That's awesome. Well,
we do want to mention Big Daddy Unlimited, the sponsor for our show. As I step all over Jessica, because we have a little bit of delay between us. They are our first sponsor, and we're certainly glad to have them. Please use the link on our Facebook page to check them out. Guns, silencers, ammo, gun parts. You can have gun parts shipped directly to your house, ammo directly to your house. And if you buy a gun, you simply go down to the gun shop, fill out a 4473, and walk out with it.
Yep, I did it. It was easy.
Assuming you don't come up hot on the ATF.
True. We're not encouraging that.
Certainly not. So we have an election day wrap up. We want to start first with the election out of Georgia. Lawrence Norville Douglas Meyer III.
Sad trombone. Former Brooklet police chief. Everyone who's ever listened to 2 or more episodes probably knows who he is. He was running for Congress against the incumbent while facing 5 federal lawsuits. He lost. He lost big.
Aww.
He got 18.3% of the vote, which in a congressional race, I mean, he did get 14,000 votes, which is more people than who's ever voted for me, because I've never run for anything, but we were talking about it before the show. It was a hefty, not having any money. I think he had like a couple $1,000 total, much of which was loaned to himself, but he didn't have any money. He didn't have a big name. He doesn't have a big business. He's only been there for a little while because he was here before. So he didn't stand a chance. The incumbent won in a 3-way primary with 71%.
And that's pretty big. That's fairly big in a 3-way race where you think that you can split the incumbent's votes and take him down in the runoff. Nope. At least
not like that.
Lawrence Norville Douglas Meyer III wasn't the candidate to do that.
No, I feel like that really only happens in closer to home races like city council, county commission, things where where lots of people know all the candidates and there truly is a divide. Like if someone's going to protest vote, it's not going to fall down the middle. And even if it does, it's not enough because I guarantee you the incumbent littered mailboxes and television.
Right.
So
we have our lady of the hour, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who defeated Dr. Cowan. John Cowan will face she will face a Democrat in November, if I can speak. And yes, this is totally sober.
We knew this was going to happen. I mean, we knew that she was going to win. I don't think anyone was surprised. Were you surprised?
No. And I'd been to one of her events. I met, I've said it on the show, I met her fans. And her fans are rabid. They love her some Marjorie. It is somewhat Trump-esque, AOC-esque. These are not issues people that are sitting down and listening to what's going on. These people who get riled up. And she was good, and she played that part. We talked about it when she did so well in the primary, that with her internet campaign and all the stuff on Facebook and the free publicity she got from things like that was the perfect storm during the pandemic. But I mean, just generally, I wouldn't say she ran a good campaign from a perspective of a campaign consultant, because I don't think any of that was traditional. But she did a good job with the publicity, whether you agree with what she did or her positions or anything else. I mean, she got so much earned media. Her name was in the press every day, especially at the end. She's on cable news. She also worked her butt off.
Oh, sure.
She really did. She would hit 5 events in a day. She absolutely worked her butt off, knocking on doors, enrolling people to knock on doors. She spent a lot of money. Of course, not that John Cowan is hurting for cash, but she really, really, really worked hard, which you could admire. Still admitting that, that I wish that sort of campaigning would not work. Right.
I mean, and I didn't mean for
that makes sense.
My point to say that she didn't work hard. You're spot on that she did. I think even as non-traditional of a campaign as she ran, she just makes it, all she has to do is say, the mainstream media is attacking me. I think on her election night, she made the news because she had some reporters leave, and then she wouldn't allow all of them in. I mean, there are certain Trump playbook things that she did that were very simple in addition to the hard work she did put in, but the low-hanging fruit she definitely capitalized on, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, she was picking up stuff off the ground. But yeah, the blaming the media, saying I'm going to go after Nancy Pelosi and throw her out of Congress. Like, no, you're not. I mean, no, you're not. But it whoops the crowd up. And those people will crawl across a mile of broken glass to vote for you.
And they did.
These are the people that wake up on election day and go, yeah, it's raining. Skip it.
Well, and I think that's that's demonstrated by the fact that she did not win absentee. Cowan did by almost over 1,000 votes, which doesn't seem like much when you have 69,000 votes, but usually early voting and absentee are predictors of, unless there's some major scandal, and that didn't happen here. So it's interesting that she picked up the pace.
And you have to wonder what Cowan did to get those absentee votes. And I'm not talking about nefarious. I'm talking about, what did he do? Did he encourage older folks to go ahead and get your absentee ballot? Go ahead and if you've made your decisions up on who you're going to vote down the ballot, why don't you go ahead and send it in so you don't have to get out? As a medical doctor, I would advise you not to go to the polls in person if you're older, something like that. Mm-hmm. And that could be totally COVID related. Those are the folks he spoke to, and the folks that kind of got riled up were middle class and a little younger. But she's already been named in a lawsuit. Well, her campaign.
Really?
Ooh, don. So
what'd she do?
Matt and I talked about it last week that she got a glowing endorsement from stepmother of Garret Rolfe. Sorry, my computer was freezing up. Not that but Garret Rolfe's stepmother
Melissa
was drug around to campaign events. What's that?
Melissa
was drug around. I got a 2-page fake handwritten letter from her, quote unquote, from her, with including a picture of her and Marjorie. She campaigned hard, and one of the things that the campaign pushed on was that Melissa Rolfe was fired unjustly because of the shooting that Garret was involved in. And Equity Prime Mortgage, or EPM as they're called on here, pushes back hard on this one. I've never heard this sort of thing from an HR person. She was hired as the director of HR. The first thing they said is it became apparent that she did not have a degree in human resources, but that she was working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that she was working on it. This is an HR person. I want you to remember this. This is the person who's supposed to be director of HR. Dumb bees, referring to some of the women in the office, saying one woman only got hired because of her ample cleavage. And that was not the terms that she used. Telling a black female employee who primarily dates black men to raise her standards.
Mm.
That she said one woman is so dumb that she must be really good at, well, you can guess. And it's not kissing butt. Rather the other side.
Thank you, Dave. I'm sure that everyone who's listening was like, I wonder what he means.
So this is all going on during this time. Another quote is a woman saying that she liked her coffee like she likes her men, black and strong. Rolfe responded, black and weak. Don't no woman want a weak man. Remarked that an employee wore little girl ruffle panties. That's actually the funniest thing, because that's not even harassment.
Yeah, that.
I mean, I understand. I work in the trades, and we say awful things to each other.
Yeah, but I mean, of all the things that were like, the other things are mostly character or, promotional, related to professional conduct and all of that. Ruffle panties. I mean, do we even know the gender of the person? I mean, I would hate to assume, but do we know the gender of the person she said that to?
No. And we won't. But she used things like stupid bee, dingbats, tell that bee to get an effing name tag. This is BS and stupid S. Who effed up? Now, this would be a career's worth of insults that if over 30 years, if you took all these together, like, it was 30 years. I believe she was hired in February of this year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I love the one about tell her to get an effing name tag. Like, that's somebody who just can't help themselves, even in a professional environment. Obviously.
And you know what? That's something, again, you would hear on a job site, construction site. Where's your effing hammer? How are you going to drive a nail with that hammer? Stupid. Go get your hammer. And then Susie walks away like, good kid. He'll be all right.
Yeah. He just needs a little guidance.
So how much of this Marjorie knew, I don't know. Whether or not Melissa Rolfe misrepresented her firing. She certainly hopped up to play victim. She was allowed to take something like 8 weeks of personal leave after Garret was arrested to take care of her family before she was fired. And apparently during that time, employees continued to come up to the owner. It's like, and express stories of how, I guess I'm sure there was how much nicer it is without her here.
And I have no doubt. I mean, I'm sure that it was all under policy and things like that, but I think that most, and I don't even know if it was FMLA or what, but I think we can all agree that 8 weeks off is very generous for any type of employment, given the crazy publicity around it anyway.
Right.
Like, it's kind of one of those things where maybe she bit a hand that fed her.
And the court documents say they have proof that this investigation started before the shooting. But again, how much of that Marjorie Greene knew, I have no idea. Obviously, had this not gone to court for a defamation suit, we would never know any of this. This would be stuck in an HR file with a big red stamp on the front of it that says "Do not rehire" and shoved in a drawer somewhere, because you generally don't release that information about former employees.
Mm-hmm.
So had she not stood up and made something of herself, but made a spectacle of herself, none of us would know this. All we would know is that she was fired. But she allowed herself to be used as a tool for Marjorie Greene, and now it's going to bite both of them. Well, we have bad news, or sad news. Andrew Clyde defeats a friend of the show, Matt Gertler.
Yeah, I was super bummed about that. I mean, I know that he was up against a lot, and it's not common for the front runner to keep their lead in the runoff, but I was disappointed.
Yeah, so was I. I thought some of his advertising got a little too close, got a little too far away from his outsider role as he was in the Georgia House.
Really? See, I didn't get to see it.
I thought so with the Trump stuff and everything else.
It's probably a very.
I just remember seeing it. I thought, what's that? I
said that's probably a very fair criticism if that's what it was, because he certainly didn't adhere to that during the. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't support Trump. It didn't come into play.
And it shouldn't in the Georgia House anyway. But he was the first one to stick it to Ralston, you know. But he also, I think, what did he say? He only voted no like 25% of the time or something.
Yeah.
Like he's such a naysayer, which is a good thing. I mean, but it's a bad thing in politics that 25% makes you an outsider.
Isn't it?
So, Matt, come back on the show. We'd love to have your commentary. So, who's not invited on the show? Paul Howard. He loses to Fannie Willis. And you have notes on here. Yay!
Yeah. I mean, I think people across the state cheered, first of all, but what a sweeping defeat. 71% of the vote, 71.9, so basically 72.
What a complete rejection of how he has handled everything in his office.
Yeah. The sad thing is that the things that he's done, I mean, they're not exclusive to Garret Rolfe and the stories we've heard. It's been going on for decades, and, you know, not many people knew who Fannie Willis was. And I would never say that it's good that what happened so that he could be ousted from office, but I'm glad that he tried to politicize the incident the way that it did, because it was finally the straw that broke the camel's back, because he's been doing that kind of stuff for so long, but no one's been looking. So I'm glad that when all the spotlights were on him, he thought he was doing what was absolutely best, and it turns out 72% of the voters in Fulton County said, I don't think so.
What do you think happens with Garret Rolfe now?
I don't know. I was talking to someone about that the other day. Like, they were like, do you think he'll try to hurry and push it through before, or do you think he'll just let it wait out? I think that the defense has a wonderful case for getting a different DA, especially given the most recent thing where we saw, I don't know if you saw the headline or the story on the AJC about it, but you know, when they tried to have Rolfe's bond revoked for going to the beach with his family, Paul Howard also requested a warrant for the fundraising site that has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for Rolfe and the other officers' legal defense fund. And Howard wanted to know who the money came from, who was hosting it, how much had been raised, like all this stuff. And the judge said, you don't have probable cause to ask for that, and denied it. I think that will also contribute to the case or the motion for a different district attorney, because everything Howard has done has been opposite of standard operating procedure, from saying this isn't about the law, this is about race.
Everything has been,
yeah,
everything's been hyper political out of it. He tried to make political hay out of it.
He hijacked it.
Yeah, he did. In fact, there could have been an in earnest investigation into the shooting. It could have been done properly through the APD with internal affairs. They could have properly looked at it and see if it doesn't rise to murder or manslaughter, that Atlanta's gonna fire him. But there are steps to go through, and neither he nor the mayor gave a damn.
Let's not forget that the GBI was called in to be that independent. Like, that independent investigation was literally underway when Paul Howard intervened.
Right. Absolutely. And he knelt to the mob. And he thought that mob would show up on August 11th, and they did not.
I won't say why.
Jessica is getting a new state senator.
Ugh. 2. I was really hoping I was going to get at least 2, though, because I talked about it on the show, but we had a special election since my state senator Jack Hill died. So there was for the rest of this year, basically, and then there was also a simultaneous Republican primary for the term starting in January. I was desperately hoping that one of the candidates would win the rest of the year, and one of them would win the primary for the 2-year term, so that before they had the rest of the session, they would go back, someone would get to be there for like 11 days, and then someone else would come along. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I mean, I wouldn't have cared who it was because they both were terrible. I didn't vote for either of them. I actually left the race blank in the runoff because I couldn't bring myself to vote for Billy Hickman or Scott Bulkey, but we're stuck with them now. And both of them, when I did the debate early on, when there were still 5 candidates, they both said they would serve as long as they could. So that probably means till I die, which is hopefully before they're done serving, because it's going to be hell.
Wait a minute. You had a special election for who's going to fill out the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's August.
Yep.
And
because if they call a special session, we have to have representation. Even though we didn't have representation for the rest of the session, the regular session, because my senator died in April. Yeah. It was very confusing for voters.
I'm sure. I guess it makes more sense if we play this out as a typical April or May special election. You're going to have the majority of the year. There could be a special session, I guess, but from August 11th to December 31st seems silly.
Yeah, and
so I'm getting into. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and it was even worse because in this special election, an independent didn't have to qualify because there weren't party primaries. So we had 5 candidates, and in the regular we had 4. And then the independent didn't win, so we had more voters in the special because Democrats could vote too, because it was on both tickets. Like, it was just, and the nonpartisan, it was a cluster. It was an absolute cluster. It was stupid. They need to change the law about that.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm getting a new senator also.
Yeah, he sucks.
Jason Enabatarde defeated Boyd Austin by 200 votes.
So you opted to die by drowning instead of die by fire, right?
I like Jason fine.
Mm-hmm.
He'll 200 votes, but you talk about Marjorie Greene. 200 votes is knocking on doors. That's getting out and mobilizing. That's 200 votes is so close that the difference is sweat equity that you put into it.
Did they call it on election night?
Late.
Okay.
I think I got up at 1 and went and checked my phone, and the results were in. I have not heard if Boyd was calling for a recount.
I don't think it's
he
close
hasn't at
enough
this
for an
point.
automatic one, right?
1% or 20,000 votes.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's just over 1%.
Mm-hmm. But he could ask for one regardless.
He could. And I don't know. I think he'd have to pay for it.
It just would seem like something he would do.
But it does, doesn't it? Other than if you want to retain any money in your coffers that you can use for political influence later, if you want to retain any of your influence, you don't look like a sore loser. You don't look like Stacey Abrams.
Well, that's true. And I heard people already talking about, I guess there's an open seat somewhere that he could run for.
Mayor. Else. He could qualify, go run back as mayor.
Oh, God.
Because it's a special election for the seat that he vacated.
And there hasn't been qualifying yet?
Going on right now.
Oh, my. How did that happen?
The city charter, apparently, if the mayor seeks higher office, he has to vacate the seat. If the mayor vacates the seat, the city council appoints a mayor until such times they can have another election.
Which is
the closest
January?
time from the time that he left is November. So this is all going to happen very quickly. I believe that, well, I'm not going to say who I believe is going to qualify, but from conversations I've heard several people talking about qualifying for that race. And I've also heard that he's not going to do that, but who knows?
That would be shady.
It'd be beyond shady. To go take your seat back and then have all your old buddies turn around and endorse you for it?
Mm-mm. Not cool.
Be interesting, though. I mean, that's small town politics. Look, Dallas has not grown. I said if Boyd Austin does for Georgia what he's done for Dallas, they'll have to rip up the interstate and put down dirt roads.
I bet he loves you.
He does say hi every time. Every time we run
nice.
into each other. Yeah, we're cordial.
Hey, not everybody can be.
He's probably shaking my hand to make sure there's not a dagger in it.
Right. Poor fella.
Nah, he's not a bad dude. He has a different vision on economic growth than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, local chaos from the last week. The refusal by Douglas County Commissioner Kelly Robinson to comply with the settlement agreement he and his attorney negotiated with a constituent is costing taxpayers heftily, records show.
So, I mean, we've talked about this issue so much, not just in Douglas County, so I don't want to harp on it, but he is one of the ones that is being sued for social media censorship and blocking of constituents and all of that. And we've talked about that, and there's articles on it on All in Georgia if you want to read all the backstory. But basically, the county attorney is not representing him. They hired Sam Olens, the former attorney general for Georgia, who's now at Denton's. They hired him to represent Robinson, and the taxpayers are paying for it. I'm not really sure why the county attorney's not representing him, but since he's being sued in his official capacity. And it's interesting because all the invoices say for social media issues, but it's just insane because it's already cost the taxpayers $13,000 in fees from the attorney. And that was just for April and May. And the federal loss, that was during the negotiation period where Olins and the commissioner drafted the settlement agreement of the terms of, not having a federal lawsuit filed. And they drafted it. The constituent agreed to it. And it was supposed to be, put in place and implemented and adhered to. And then he didn't. So the constituent filed a federal lawsuit in late June or early July. So you're talking about $13,000 before the federal lawsuit was even filed, which is wildly outrageous when you consider the fact that if you're the constituent filing, and I know this because I'm doing it, but it costs you $500 to file. And, in all the other cases, the attorney has gotten that money back for the constituent in damages plus attorney's fees. So it's less than $3,000 to pay the attorney and get the damages and get your filing fee back. And yet they're defending something that has been proven time and time again, and it's costing $13,000. That's insane.
And they're fighting precedent. They're fighting a court ruling. It's already been ruled. You cannot.
Yeah, not just a ruling either. Like multiple rulings. And the Supreme Court of the United States. Like this didn't just happen in California. Like this is something that has happened all across the country and is not been overturned repeatedly. But it's very simple. If you use your social media for official business, you cannot block anyone. You can have 2 Facebook pages. You can have an official page and you can have your personal, but you have to keep your personal to fishing pictures and pictures of the grandkids. Someone should tell Micah Gravely that because he blocked me.
Did he?
He did.
Huh? Do you still have access to his official page?
I'm sure I do, but he does put official stuff on his personal page. Luckily, I'm too busy suing other people, so I'm not going to add him to the list, but I wish somebody would tell him. Matt.
Matt doesn't listen to the show.
I know, right?
Got 7 kids. I'm lucky I got an hour with him last week just to put the show down.
I wondered if it was going to actually happen.
Or if it was just going to be an hour-long monologue. Who in the hell would listen to that?
I would, just because Lord only knows what you would say. The whole thing would probably have to be edited because you'd be out of control.
I would argue with myself.
Yeah.
They would send the men in the white coats for me.
They haven't already?
So, not yet. Not yet.
Oh, by the way.
So Kemp dropped...
These are our opinions.
Oh.
Just in case.
And not necessarily those of All on Georgia. Or any reporter not appearing on the show. So Matt is off the hook for this one. Just like Jessica was off the hook for the last one.
Thank God.
We want to make sure to get the disclosure in for you on the last show, because there's no way you should be associated with that at all.
Thank you.
Kemp dropped his lawsuit against the city of Atlanta, but not for the reasons some claim.
So
Kemp's executive order is set to expire
Saturday, which is, we're recording before, so things are going to change. Just letting you know. Like, there'll be more, the things aren't going to change. There'll just be more information by the time you're listening to this on Monday. But did you read his statement of what he said? I mean, I know we're going to go into it in detail, but did you read basically that all of the hoopla we heard about it being about masks, like that was not the only point of his lawsuit, which was largely disregarded by the mainstream media?
Well, of course it was.
Well, I think it's important to bring that up because for what we're about to talk about, because what we're hearing again is, he dropped the lawsuit and the narrative is like he wasn't going to win, so he just dropped it. But that's not the case. He said in a press release that he sued because, Bottoms has said that it was personal and he didn't sue anybody else and blah, blah, blah. But she was the first one to come out swinging after he tried to double down on his position. And he sued her because, hers was the most aggressive. Like, it wasn't just about the masks. And you can tell that from his quote. That's why the other cities weren't necessarily included. But he said, I sued the city of Atlanta to immediately stop the shuttering of local businesses and to protect local workers from economic instability. For weeks, we have worked in good faith with Mayor Bottoms, and she agreed to abandon the city's Phase 1 rollback plan, which included business closures and a shelter-in-place order. So, like I said, it wasn't just about the masks. The suit, of course, was because the masks were more restrictive than the state order, as was a return to a shelter in place and the prohibition of business operating in compliance with the state order. And so then he said, unfortunately, the mayor has made it clear that she will not agree to a settlement that safeguards the rights of private property owners in Georgia. Given the stalemate negotiations, we will address this very issue in the next executive order. We will continue to protect the lives and livelihoods of all Georgians. And I thought it was hilarious because Bottoms said it wasn't her directions that she made were not legal orders. They were just statements of recommendations, and Kemp didn't understand what she was trying to do. I thought she was pretty clear about what she was trying to do. She wanted to mandate, she said that when the state was not protecting the lives of Georgians, she was going to step in.
Right. Yeah, she was fairly, like you said, fairly clear that this is what she wanted. And she thinks that she has the authority to do it. And I don't think Kemp has the authority to do it. I don't think when this is all said and done that an executive can tell you to wear something.
They can't tell you to wear shoes.
Right. They might be able to tell you that you have to wear shoes inside the governor's mansion, but walking around in public, you can't tell me to wear a mask. You just can't. It's unconstitutional. You can't start handing out fines for not wearing a mask. You just can't. Now, if you want to pass a law, call a special session, have the legislators come back and say, okay, this is what we want. We want everyone to wear a mask. And here's what is what we're going to say. Put a sundown rule on this law, and we're going to pass a law that be signed into the books by the governor. We'll put a sundown date of, I don't know, February 13th, just in time for Valentine's Day. So there's a legal way to do things without issuing edicts. I don't like EOs. I don't like it when my side does it. I don't like when the other side does it. I don't like them in general.
Well, and that was my
emergency orders.
That was my beef with the legislature when they were doing all those vehicle bills at the end about COVID. My whole point was you can call a special session. You already had one, and all you did was give the governor power. But if you want to do all these COVID-related things, have a COVID legislative session so that the public and the legislators and the governor, everyone, all the parties involved can have a conversation about that stuff aside from regular issues of day-to-day life in Georgia. Instead of gutting bills and making them about COVID and not getting all of the COVID related things. Like if you wanted to have the discussion about masks or business closures or who has the authority to do either, have the conversation.
Right. Absolutely have the conversation. It's very simple. Pass a law with a sundown on it. Easy enough. But they won't do that. Hell, they're already pissed because the governor is wanting to call them back into special session. They're like, hey, we got an election in November. It's getting late, Hoss.
Because they're elected to run for election or they're elected to serve in the legislature. Please help me here.
No, I agree with you.
Right.
I agree with you. But that's where they are on it. Is it the last special? Well, the special session where they gave the Delta tax money somehow helped the farmers in South Georgia. Anyway, they did that right after the election. where you got lame duck legislators sitting in there making these decisions.
Frightening.
It is frightening, but that's the business under the gold dome. But it's not. It's just not that hard. And I'm a layman. I obviously not an attorney, but I don't think it's that hard to say if you're in a public space in a government building on government property and within 6 feet of somebody else, you have to wear a covering of your face and mouth unless this bill set to expire at February 13th, 2021.
Well, and I remember when this all happened initially, like way back when he put the thing about local governments in, and how GMA all along, and even ACCG to a degree because they're like the minions of GMA, they said, Governor Kemp is trying to limit your rights to enforce these things in your local buildings. Well, yes, you could interpret it that way, but not once. Because there's lots of cities and counties around this state right now that are requiring masks in the tax assessor's office and the DMV, and well, that's the state, but in county-run buildings where there are state and county and city offices, and the governor has not tried to stop them from enforcing that. It is merely, when you're walking on the street in Savannah or having businesses require their patrons to wear them. He hasn't tried to limit that. That was a fear-mongering thing of, look what he's trying to do. He's trying to take away your rights. First of all, you don't have any rights. You're the government. But second, no, he's not.
And I know there are mask crusaders out there on both sides. The people who refuse to wear a mask in Publix. And I'm one of those people. I'm not going to wear a mask walking around outside.
Right.
Just not. But if a private corporation says, if you would like to purchase my wares, this is what I require of you to do, you can either decide to shop there or not. It's almost like it's a private solution. It's the same thing at the hospitals. Put a mask on before you come indoors. Same thing at every doctor's office. Put your mask on before you come in. Like you said, if a county tag office or a tax assessor office wants you to wear a mask, I mean, that's up to them. They have to answer to the people of the county.
Yeah, it's obnoxious, and I'm really tired of hearing about it. Just like, not necessarily this kind of stuff where we're sorting out the details. I never really understood why they were ordered to mediation. Like, either Kemp's executive order stands because he has the state precedent or the state case law to back it up, or it doesn't, and it was unconstitutional, and it should have been overturned and him prohibited from doing it again. I mean, I felt like the judge just sent them to mediation because he didn't want to have to offer a ruling, or she, or whoever it was. But so it's not necessarily the policy and the sorting out of this stuff. I'm just tired of hearing about people with masks. Like, I hate being told what to do by the government. But like you said, I'm not going to fight a business or get in a fight with the person at the front door of a restaurant because they want. I want to eat there. But this has grown very tiresome. And there's rumor that Governor Kemp is going to, this time in his executive order, say that local governments and police, I guess, cannot enforce these types of things on private property. So like in the city of Savannah, where they have a mask mandate, if you were in a restaurant and the restaurant wasn't doing something one way or the other, and the police came in and wanted to cite you, they couldn't if you weren't wearing a mask, which is an interesting concept too.
It still means the stupid SOBs want to close the outdoors. The open air, sunshine, heat, and now put a mask on. It's absurd. That is going to be the new tan line of 2020.
Not this girl.
Not I either, because and just no, I'm not wearing a mask outdoors.
Just no.
Just no. Just no. And like I said, I don't think they have the constitutional authority to enforce a mandate just by giving a mandate.
Right.
It's not within his authority. It's not within the president's authority. He can't just mandate you wear a mask. That's not how it works. It's not how a republic works. Kemp has been very clear. Masks are good. Wear one. It's a good idea. He's been very clear. But he said, I'm going to stop short on a government mandate. And he should continue to hold. Of course, this is all going to be a moot point by Monday, hopefully, because we'll know what the EO is.
Yeah.
So now that I've mooted the last 10 minutes, Jessica, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, it's actually good that you kept on. I was hoping you wouldn't go off on a tangent because my closing thought is kind of in line with what we've just been talking about. But I got sucked down this rabbit hole and of a clickbait headline on The Atlantic which I usually like their exposés and their longer articles. I'm not a fan of their editorials, and that's what this was. But it's called America's Authoritarian Governor, and obviously they're talking about Kemp. And I knew it had to be about the virus, but I spent all this time reading this dumbass article about Kemp being an authoritarian because he won't mandate masks. And I'm just, it's my fault for clicking the article and allowing myself to continue reading. But there are people who are now walking around because they read this article, this super biased opinion piece, and I don't give her credit. I mean, it's not labeled opinion piece, but it's definitely an opinion. It's in the health section. But he's not an authoritarian because he won't mandate something. That's not how this works. But now there's people walking around thinking that he's an authoritarian. So that's my.
Well, we're on this.
Go ahead.
Yes, we're on the same page. Words mean things.
Yeah.
Authoritarian means something. If you want to call him irresponsible,
reckless.
That's within your right. But authoritarian,
that's wrong.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's absolutely incorrect. If you want to say that a governor is authoritarian because they take a emergency declaration and run with it and start mandating people wear masks, that's authoritarian.
Well,
maybe that person needs a thesaurus.
Maybe.
Oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's not the word I meant at all. So we have a Florida sheriff bans the use of masks in his building, in his jail, from the visitors, and from his deputies in uniform. His
First
quote
time
is,
I've
"We
seen
can
anything
debate
like this."
Yeah, we can debate and argue all day of why and why not. The fact is, the amount of professionals that give a reason why we should. I can find the exact amount of professionals that say we shouldn't." Woods wrote an email that went to the Ocala Star Banner, which is Ocala is where my sister and niece live. This is a very interesting sort of way about it. Is not you should or you shouldn't, but you may not. This is, of course, outside of handling someone who's infectious, possibly infectious, going to a person who's at risk's home, dealing with people in the hospital. All those things were carved out. That if a mask is necessary, go ahead. But even visitors coming to the jail are not going to be allowed to wear a mask.
I think he's going to get sued. Because it won't matter where somebody gets, I mean, we've talked about that before, about how it's such a problem that you don't know where you contract it. always. But if they do, all they have to say is, well, at my work, I wasn't allowed to wear a mask, and then it's lights out.
Yeah, absolutely. But uniform requirements. There are uniform requirements. Every one of those deputies is employed at will. They're allowed to quit if they don't like the way the sheriff is acting. If they don't like the way he's running things, if they don't like his words, it is within their rights to go proverbially or quite literally go turn your badge and your gun. Say I don't want to do this anymore. I quit. You're right. Just like the police officers doing in New York, retiring in droves. It's an interesting thing because this is a area of Florida, if you're not familiar with Ocala, which is north of Orlando and south of Gainesville. It's still very rural. Still have a lot of horse farms. You're kind of stuck between three airports. You can get to Jacksonville, four airports. Jacksonville in an hour and a half. You can get to Orlando in an hour. You can get to Gainesville in an hour, or you can actually get to Tampa in an hour and a half. So it's kind of just middle Florida. It's also hotter than hell in August because you don't get the eastern breeze from that you get on the Atlantic coast. But it's a different community than you think of, like traditional beachy Florida. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to be pounding their chests on this one. In my opinion.
Of course.
And if you like what you heard, whether or not you agree with our opinions, please like and share us on social media. Follow Jessica, if for nothing, no other reason, just for the comments. So, for Jessica Szilagyi, for Eric Cumby, our editor, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.